So quite a bit to go through. So I'm going to start with all the integrations that we launched. That's a good place to start. So we'll just go to the integrations page. We did a lot of new integrations this year. And I honestly, so this is, I think, everything that we've worked on since you came on board, Oliver. But I think there might be some other
Yeah.
stuff in here, or some other stuff that was from earlier in the year that I had worked on that I totally don't remember. So there might be some other stuff, but most of that stuff everyone's probably familiar with because it's been in there so long. So this is the stuff that I think is the higher priority. So, all right. As far as integrations go, the pretty early on this year, we launched our company cam integration. So that's now here on the ProLine integrations page. You can connect your company cam account. There's a few different things you can do with that. One is you can just go into your projects and go to files, and then there's a company cam icon here that you can click on, and then you can link to a company cam project through that button. And when you link, it's going to then sync over your photos from Company Cam. You can also click this button to just then open in Company Cam. I'm not logged in currently, but you can open that project in Company Cam as well. And then also, if anything were to happen where it's not syncing something over, you can come in here and push that sync. Now, what most people are doing is they'll have inside their appointment reminders campaign, they'll have a send to company cam step. If you have this send to company cam step in your appointment reminders or anywhere else in your campaigns, that will actually send the project information from ProLine. It will create a project in company cam and it will automatically link them so that photos from company cam get automatically synced into ProLine. All right, so that's company cam. QuickBooks, we did launch our QuickBooks integration. I think that was actually the main thing I had worked on right before you came on. Oliver was V1 of QuickBooks. So we're currently on version 2 of QuickBooks. So version 1 of QuickBooks was just sending contact and project information from ProLine into QuickBooks. Version 2 that Oliver worked on is also now syncing invoices and payments. This has gone through a number of iterations. We're still keeping the beta tag on there just because we want to be super careful with people's books. And so, we're constantly monitoring this to make sure that everything is good. So far, it's been pretty good. We've and anything that's come up, we've been able to solve. So, there will be probably a version 3 and maybe even 4 of QuickBooks down the line to look at. I think the next thing we'd probably look at would be syncing costs over, which
Main
some
thing is
people,
expenses. Like
yeah, expenses.
being able to map expenses. It's a little bit tough in the way that we kind of have our budgets at the moment. So yeah, we'll want to be careful with that one. I do have a call with someone on Friday this week about some possible changes that they're wanting to suggest this. So yeah, this one's definitely evolving. So if anyone has feedback or requests for this, please get in touch.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, please do reach out to us on QuickBooks related stuff. All right, directory. That was a fairly recent one. This is not in any kind of time-based order. We're just sort of going more topical. So directory was just a recent addition. So we now have a direct connection back to directory where you can set it up in directory and it will send leads directly into ProLine. So anytime you get a lead on the directory side, it gets pushed into ProLine. It will get configured based on all of these things you can select here for the lead source you want and what campaign you want it to start and all of that. So this is a very similar integration to what we have already with Angie, and then what you can also set up through through Zapier for other sources, where it's basically a speed to lead connection is the main goal of that. Another thing with directory, we're kind of in talks with them to expand this a little bit, but you can also bring over, it's not necessarily part of this integration, but you can get from directory PDFs that like break down the PDF or the directory benefit and the $20,000 warranty and all that, and you can put that into your quote templates. So that's another kind of added benefit. We're trying to figure out how to best promote that, but you can do it right now. You can just go into your directory account, download that PDF, and then I don't know why I went back there. In and then go to your quotes go into a quote, and then go to add a custom page, and then you can upload that PDF from directory directly into a custom page that's inside your quote templates, and then your quotes. And Oliver, would you just monitor and let me know if there's any questions in the chat too that we need to stop for?
Yep, all good.
Um, I think that what Nicole is saying here. So Nicole, we can look at this, but from our understanding, there's no way to create something as projects in QuickBooks through their API. That's a weird
Yeah,
limitation that QuickBooks seems to be very attached to. Like there's a
they don't
lot of
currently
demand.
let you do it. Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't currently let you do it. There are third parties who create projects, but they do it really weird. They like pretend to be a user essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate QuickBooks too, Nicole. I've
Yeah.
spent a long time going through the documentation. There are a lot of quirks.
Yeah, it's weird. But there's a lot of pressure to add support for projects to the API, but they don't seem eager to add it for some reason, which is weird. Okay, so getting back to our different integrations here, next thing is ABC Supply. So this is going to be a pretty substantial one. If I go to my quotes and then price list, we would still connect it. I keep hitting the back arrow. Let's get integrations here. You would still connect it via the integrations page to start. And then you would select your branch, and then you have to have a ship to account. On everyone's pretty much going to have that already. So you would just select a ship to account once you have ABC Supply connected. And then you would also choose whether or not you want ProLine to automatically sync pricing on a daily basis, or if you want to only do that manually. And so you do have the option of not having it be an auto sync, and then you can go into your price list and trigger that. Where do you trigger that from, Oliver? Is there a button in here somewhere? Or is it maybe tools?
Yeah, so if you've got it connected, then in tools and utilities, you'll find that sync
Okay.
button.
So yeah, if people want to manually sync. Um, oh, this one, okay, it's just a little slow. So if you go here to supplier connections, so this is
That's all
ABC.
connected on mine if you want me to share my
Yeah,
screen.
why don't you share it and you can kind of run through that.
This one. So this is what that looks like. You can, with any of your price designs, you can connect these to an item in ABC Supply. So search for GAF item. Sometimes ABC is a little bit slow. I don't know what causes the delay. Working with them at the moment to try to find out why this is so slow sometimes. They're actually going to give it to us.
Yeah.
Hmm. Potentially this demo account has some issues. Um, Effectively, what happens is you link a product to an ABC supply item, and then it will update the price either on that automatic basis or on a manual sync basis. The manual sync looks like this, which, oh, I don't have any linked items in there yet. Yeah, okay. I think this demo account is not fully set up for that. It might be
Probably
enabled, but it's not actually pulling through. So that's all good.
the connection might not be live.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
they probably have us on a test account that doesn't have all pricing built out in it. Yeah, to what Nicole, what you're saying, yeah, the ABC database is not the most reliable. So if so, what you should be able to do, because the pricing is specific to each company, and so what you should be able to do is tell your rep, hey, that price you just quoted me, can you go update that in the system so that it gets automatically updated in our CRM? But unless you ask them that they may not do that. Um, I used to work at ABC and
Pricing tier, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so
So
it's based on the branch that you're checking it from, the branch itself, and the ship to account that you've got. But then I believe that the reps themselves can also uh, give separate pricing if they wanted to as well. So it's a little bit tricky, but the purpose of this is really just to get the kind of general pricing, and then hopefully the pricing that you're actually getting is a little bit less, if anything, and not over that. So just
Yeah.
to make sure everything's profitable, really.
Right. But yeah, I think the important thing is that we are pulling your pricing specifically, not just general ABC pricing. Matt said it'd be cool to tag the sections with a quote and have them be line items on QuickBooks, which is do we already have that kind of?
That would be cool. We don't really have it at the moment because we would need to map the items within QuickBooks and ProLine to put them in those line items there because we need like product types. That is definitely something we can look at doing in the future for invoices. But the other thing is that the way that our invoices work at the moment is you have like a main cost line
Oh
item, and it might
yeah.
have notes in there about the services that are within there, but we don't push all the line items through the invoices.
Yeah, so I think we that would require a whole reworking of our invoicing before we can really look at that. Because that's the thing is it's going to our invoicing first and then it's going to QuickBooks. So
Yeah.
I think step one would be if you're wanting it to be that granular, it would be requesting as an idea on invoicing, which we have a lot of people that don't want invoicing to be that way. So it might be possible, but if we did it, I think we'd have to have it something that's like toggle on off so that companies that want it to just be a single line item for roof replacement have that, and then the ones that want it granular have that. But that's definitely something that needs to go on the idea board for our invoicing. And then if we have it, then that will become possible to implement potentially in the QuickBooks integration. But until we have it on our side, I don't think it's even within reach. Um, all right. Oliver, do you have an answer to that last question? Reshare my screen here.
Push contacts. The contacts for QuickBooks? Yeah. Um, let's just contact through and just have it have what blank do you mean, Matt? Because like if you've got it blank line items. Um, well, contacts. So we sync the ProLine contacts to QuickBooks based on stage. So as long as you've got your integration set up to sync the contacts through, you could have it set up to sync them based on, your initial like lead or like open status. You could have if you put it to sync an open status, then it would literally just sync every single contact where you have an open project as it comes through. In terms of line items, I think you're talking about invoices. So for the invoice itself, they only get synced when you send the invoice. I guess you could try to create a blank invoice with no line items, but I think it would cause some errors because I don't think QuickBooks is going to create a blank invoice for us by API.
Yeah, probably
If
not.
that makes sense,
You'd have to be send because we sync it when you send the invoice, not
we do.
when you create the invoice. So you'd
Yeah.
have to be sending a blank invoice to your customers. I think one thing curious, Matt, are you billing through QuickBooks or are you billing through ProLine? Might have lost Matt. So I think one thing to keep in mind with all of this is that we intentionally, okay.
Cool.
We so maybe we continue this conversation off the call, Oliver, if you want to reach out to Matt or vice versa and get some more details on that. If you're billing through ProLine, then I'm not sure what the need would be to have it be that granular on the QuickBooks side, but I'll let you and Oliver kind of hash that out in general, so this is something that comes up sometimes. We intentionally have our QuickBooks integration set up to support contractors that are using ProLine invoicing. And so if you're using QuickBooks invoicing, then it's going to be inconvenient by its very nature because we're just simply more interested in supporting companies that are using our invoicing because um, that's a big part of our platform as well. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. But if you are using ProLine's quotes, maybe Oliver and Matt, you guys can link up and kind of get more details on why that other stuff needs to still go into QuickBooks. All right. Let's jump back in and start and go through these integrations. This next set of integrations is all of our different measurement integrations. We did a huge push on measurement provider integrations in this past year. Eagle View, of course, has been the big one there. And so Eagle View is our cornerstone when it comes to the measurement side. We also support Hover, Quick Measure, Roof Scope, and then we also have a CSV. And we still have this on the integrations page because it does require some configuration. It is still technically an integration of sorts, even if it's not with a specific platform. So we now offer all those different ways to bring measurements into ProLine. Um, and one really cool thing specifically about Eagle View is that with Eagle View, you get 5 free reports. So if you're using Eagle View on ProLine, every ProLine company gets 5 free reports to use with Eagle View, just as a ProLine company and ProLine user. So the way that looks inside the system, if we go in here, is if you go to the measurement tab, you're going to see all of your connected and enabled measurement providers down here at the bottom of the measure area. And so if you want to place a new EagleView order, you can just do that super easily right through the UI here. You can even change the pin location. You can select all the different configurations for the report. You can even add a promo code. If you're using one of the first like 5 free reports, this will get locked because it is using a free report. I'm not sure why it's not locked in this case. That's maybe something to look at, Oliver, because it
You
does
can
say
add,
there's 5 left
you can,
here.
yeah. So it's based on the report type as well.
Got it.
So if you were to go ahead and select one of those ones, yeah, there you go. But if
Perfect.
you were selecting a different report, you could still go ahead and add a promo code.
If it's one that's not supported by the reports offer. Yeah. I
Exactly.
think
Yeah.
it's premium, full house, and quick squares. Is that right? Or it's just premium and full house?
I think it's just premium full house. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh yeah, yeah, right here. Full house and premium. Um, thanks, Nicole. Nicole says that invoicing is way superior to QuickBooks. Appreciate that. We worked hard on it. All right. So Hover is of all of these, Hover is a little bit different because Hover requires so much on their end. We just sync projects over from Hover. So yeah. So if you clear out this project name and address, you're just going to get a list of your recent Hover projects. But it will by default when you click the button, it's gonna put in the project's address from our side as the search. So ideally, it would just show up, and then when you hit import, it's gonna import those measurements over from the Hover project into a ProLine measurement report. When you place an order or upload CSV, CSV is similar. So with CSV, you would upload just the CSV into here. It's going to mostly map, but you do have to double check it and make sure that it's mapping the columns correctly, depending on where you're pulling measurements over from. Some we've optimized for like a couple different measurement providers so that it just matches automatically. But if you're using a different one we haven't optimized for, then you might have to manually check it. But and whichever you choose, whatever you choose here, it's going to automatically populate out a report here with the measurements. If there's a PDF that's connected to those measurements, you'll also be able to access that through the little document button in the corner of the measurement report. And then you'll have all of the numbers from the measurement reports populated in here and ready to go for your quotes. David asked which are the optimized measurements for CSV. Because we're on a recorded call, I can't really tell you that, but if you reach out to our support, they will tell you. And they'll tell you which ones.
Also, it is entirely flexible. So
Very
you can put
flexible.
any CSV you want in there and just map the fields. There's no restrictions around that. You just need to tell the importer, like, this is ridges, this is valleys, for example. And then the next time you import that again with the same headers and everything, it'll just automatically remember the mapping you did last
Oh,
time.
really? Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't even know that.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a feature in there that's enabled, which is that we will adapt to user generated content in there. So if you've got one in there that says valleys something, like the next time we come in, it'll auto go to that one.
Got it.
Uh,
So yeah, that's
yeah,
even
so
easier.
eventually any CSV, yeah, just put it in.
Yeah. So I guess the answer to that, David, is all CSV providers. You may just have to configure it the first time manually.
Yeah,
Just double check it at least. It might already have it be good to go. All right. Cool. So once you have your measurements in here, one thing that's really cool, let me see which one. So you can also import existing reports from these measurement providers. And then
most of these as well can be multi-structure.
that's
It's
what I was just gonna
another thing
look
to
at.
point out. Oh, if we got one.
Do
Yeah.
you, there was one on here specifically, and I just can't remember which
I
one
think we got one that was like seven different structures at one point,
Yeah,
which is very impressive that they can
it was in
pull
on
through so much content.
Laura Jones, I think. Here, let me pull over Laura Jones. I think I already had it in here. Okay, this is already a multi-structure report, so we'll just let me delete this one. You can also just do new report, and you can manually add measurements into ProLine as well. So that's also an option here. Also, just while we're here, this list of measurement fields is 100% customizable and completely unlimited. So that's actually another feature that's on the list that I want to hit is if you go into company settings and you go to measurements, we have two different concepts of measurements. We have um, uh, you can add. Oh, yeah. So someone just pointed this out, and it's worth noting you can add a field in the measurement view. So yeah, that's exactly what we're looking at here. I think that's what they're referring to. So you can add in as many measurements as you want. So if you, there's a lot of flexibility here. Now, the integrations don't necessarily like they're only pulling over a certain amount of data that you can map to different fields. But you can map them into, oh, hey, Adam. You can map them into any specific field. So, but if you look on the integrations page, for example, for Eagle View, this is the information that the Eagle View integration is pulling over. And then on the right, you can select which one of your fields you want that data to go into. So there is some limitation on the integration side, but on the ProLine side, you can go absolutely crazy with these measurement report fields, and you can put anything that you want into any of these fields you want. Now, um, the other side here is going to be measurement subcalculations as well. You can go crazy here. Subcalculations is what you're looking at here. Go back to measurements. So these are the subcalculations. So they serve two purposes. One purpose is as you're putting in information or you have some information here, you can get some kind of summations, either total square or how much hip and ridge do we have, what's the eaves and ridges. So some information that you would otherwise have to sort of do math on, you can add up here and you can see it at a glance. You can also use that in your calculations. And that's kind of the next step to look at here is the quoting. So the quoting is really big. And on the quote side, we there's so much we did on quoting, and I may just have you, Oliver, just go through it because it's so much. But if I'll just kind of give a little intro here on the multi-structure to kind of ease us in. So we are the only CRM platform or and quoting platform that I'm aware of that supports multi-structure quoting. So in our measurement reports, you can have more than one structure in a measurement report. And then when you go to create a quote, ProLine, if you're using structure pages, we introduce this concept of structure pages into the quote templates. ProLine will automatically duplicate out the structure page from the quote template and create a separate structure for each of your structures from your measurement report. And each one, you have structure and line items, which are the common line items. But then within each structure, you can have good, better, best options, add-ons, and so you can really build out some dynamic quotes here for multi-structure properties. And so there's a lot of good use cases for this. One, of course, is just the detached garage. But you also can run into some stuff sometimes with like multifamily or communities or like where you are working with a homeowners association, you might want to just send them a single quote for all the properties that are in that group rather than having to send individual quotes for each one. And so this is very flexible and allows you to send quotes that are a lot more dynamic and can cover multiple structures within one quote while still having it itemized out. If we go and actually look at this, and I'm going to hand it over to you in a second, Oliver, to really go through this. But um, if we open up ProLine here, we go to sign now. We can see that when we're going to actually sign this quote, the user gets to decide which of these structures are actually going to get included and signed for. So it offers a lot of flexibility. Um, that is also going to help you close more jobs, especially on those detached garage deals, because rather than the homeowner, if the homeowner decides they don't want to pay for both, rather than them having to come back to you for a new quote, they can just go ahead and only select one or the other. And they're a lot more likely to go with you over one of your competitors that they're going to have to reach out to for a new quote. Um, I Let me just hand it over to you all before I get deeper on quotes because there's a lot here. So I'll let you kind of pick up from
I think we
there.
just need to kind of go through it. Yeah, I think we need to kind of go through them bit by bit. The other part we didn't touch on just then was the sub calculations previews and stuff as well we did, and the simplified sub calculations that you did not that
Oh, I
long
totally
ago. But
forgot about that.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really nice feature because that was quite a learning curve for people when they were first getting into ProLine. The way we used to have calculations that you can still do as like an advanced calculation, but maybe we can just show that at the start.
Yeah, let's show that. So we'll just pick like JF Grand Sequoia here. So we added this simple calculation builder where you can now select what measurements you want to work with, and then you select the coverage. So essentially, how much per one of your measurements, how much does this item cover? So for JF Grand Sequoia, the way this one is currently set up is with a waste factor and a coverage of one. So for each square, we're going to order one of Grand Sequoia. Um, and so it's all quantity
Can you just
calculated
put
quantities.
in can you just put in a second measurement there?
Yeah, we'll put
Yeah,
like Ridge Square.
and then just put in the test calculation values for them.
So, yep. So we also have this.
So I think this is so useful because when you're trying to look at this used to be a stumbling point for people, is that they would kind of struggle with figuring out where this was going. But now you can just put in the test data there so you can see exactly how much the calculated cost would be for this. And then like as you change, so if I change the coverage, for example, those calculated quantities and calculated costs would just start changing for me as well. You need to click that little thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So lots of,
So it just starts adjusting.
yeah, adjust it in real time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So super
So,
helpful in terms of figuring those out.
yeah. And
The other one I was
documents.
thinking of was variations. Just while we're here in priceless items, we could go through the
Yeah.
priceless variations.
I'll go through that. I do want to point out we still have the custom formula approach too for those that want to get a little bit more granular. So this is going to allow for some more complex combinations of measurement values and math. So you can use kind of standard math here and put together a formula. This is what we originally started with because it's very flexible, but then this was a big stumbling block for a lot of users. Understandably, it's pretty complex, and so we've essentially created this layer on top where it's basically still building the custom formula in the background, but it's just an easier way of kind of breaking that down in a way that works in most cases. So for most cases, at least for roofing, this simple calculation is going to cover you. So yeah, variations is definitely a big one as well. So variations, let me show what that looks like on the front end here. So when you're looking at a quote,
A lot of the time, this used to be covered by like people would have a signature field where they would ask someone to like write in what shingle color they wanted, for example.
yep,
This replaces that with a more robust option.
yep. And so instead of having just an empty field, now depending on what's selected here, it's very dynamic and it drops in the fields that need information. So the color on the building one's color, and then drip edge color, the building's two color and drip edge color. Now you have complete control over these names. I think this demo account probably doesn't have it built out very well. But if we go in here, so shingle color, pink, green, purple, full control here on what the label is. So it said color just now in that quote, but that's completely customizable. And then the names of the variations are as well. And then you can add in
You
as
can
many
also
you
you
want.
can soft delete these ones as well. So if you delete a variation in here, it'll still kind of stay in the system, and then you can reactivate it later. But so the reason for that is like, let's say you were adding a specific shingle color to a quote there and someone had chosen that. We still want to have that for record keeping. But if that is no longer being made, then you'll want to come in here and remove that as a variation. So new people can't pick it, but we can see that for legacy information.
Right. Yep. So if the supplier says, "Hey, we're just continuing this color," then you can come in here and you can delete it without it retroactively hurting any of your past people that have opted for it.
I think next thing maybe budget planner we could talk
Do you want
about.
to? We're already kind of in quotes. Do you want to maybe finish out what we got on quotes here?
Oh, I mean, well, quotes
Oh,
is
budget planner. Yep. Yep. You're right.
budget planner. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not sorry. We got so much still to cover in quotes because we still got live preview and multiple signatories.
Right.
Um,
S- So live preview.
taxes,
Yeah.
taxes we didn't have before.
So much.
Jeez.
Well, live preview, let's just hit that real quick. So if this was probably noticed pretty quickly, rather than you having to wait for before it was like 30 to 45 seconds to generate a full PDF document before you could preview. Now it's just a few seconds. So there is still a loading period that has to run, but once that runs, it just loads your quote in real time here in ProLine. So we still generate a PDF document, and so we have that up here in the corner. But this is actually a kind of a simulated document, which allows us to do cool things like have a sign now button right here on the page itself. It also allows for things like
Have videos,
embedding videos, and then pretty soon we're going to allow also some embedding of other stuff. I think too. That's going to be in
iframes.
next few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of cool stuff now that opens up because these quotes are live.
Mhm.
The
The only exception there is if it's a previously signed quote, you'll then just see the PDF. But that, that's kind of already generated, so you won't have any load time there. One of the weird things you'll notice is that if a page itself is longer than a normal page, some of them will just look a bit longer, but obviously in the PDF, it'll all be normal.
right. Yeah. So yeah, it's not possible to kind of perfectly represent a PDF. And so yeah, I'm trying to see if there's an example of that
In
maybe.
your example, yeah, the signing page there, that's a bit longer than it would
Yeah, the
be,
signing page is a little bit
slightly.
longer. So rather than breaking in the middle of a page like this, the way the PDF would have had to, um, this version is just going to extend the page down, which also looks better because getting like a random page break right here is not the prettiest looking to begin with. So it's kind of a advantage. And
Yeah.
then the PDF version, you have a download button here for that. And then the reason that we show the PDF for sign quotes is because we want there to be absolutely zero chance of anything changing once it's signed. So once it's signed, we don't want to show like a live view like this just in case something gets deleted or changed in ProLine. Maybe you delete the quote template. We don't want anything changing on a signed document. And so the PDF really locks that in. So you have that signed PDF copy, and that's all that's going to be visible on this page once something is signed. All right. Yeah, let's look at the budget planner. So a lot of work got put into this, both for, yeah, we'll just start with budget planner. So if we go to budget planner here, budget planner allows, so because ProLine's quotes are so dynamic and you have good, better, best options and then possibly multiple structures, it's not possible to just give you one set of numbers on how a breaks down as far as your margin goes and all of that. So the budget planner allows you to really play around with this and say, hey, if they use the good option, maybe they only go with building one, they only choose the good option, and then they go with the 6 inch seamless gutters. What does that look like? Both from the total here, how much are they going to pay on the deposit? How much are they going to pay total on the balance? And then also, what's that gross margin going to be? So what does that break down in actual profit? So
Hmm.
you get a
Takes into account
complete.
taxes as well. The
Yep.
other thing just to call out there is that because we've got the option within the quotes, you can now override the margin or you can override the price on a specific option too. And so throughout those options, you might be setting different margins for your good, better, best. So on here, you can still evaluate that to see after all is said and done, what is the actual amount that we're getting. Yeah, the margin override just there.
And then also subtotal as well can be overridden. So if you need to, um, there's a lot more control now over overpricing where you're not locked into just what the calculation says. But with that definitely comes that concern of underbidding a job. And that's where the
Hmm.
budget planner can kind of help you to navigate that and anticipate and look at these different scenarios and see, okay, what happens if they go with the best option? What happens if they go with the good option? What happens if they do both buildings? And so you can look at all these different scenarios and figure out, and in this scenario versus that scenario, am I still going to be good on this quote? And so this is
Yep.
really just allowing you to double check.
Reps can
The
also see their commission before it's done.
Yep. So sales reps, if you have commission on the project that's set up and assigned to the user assigned to this, then it's going to give a commission estimate on how much they're going to get paid. You have service tax as well, and if you had, um,
If you had vendor tax, this will already be factored in on the options and upgrades themselves.
right. Yep. So the vendor taxes are already factored in. So let me go over. Well, let's kind of finish on commission here. Commission can get changed. There's a number of places for both service tax and commission. Both of those can be changed on the budget because they are a project level item. So on this entire project, commission does have to be one thing for everything, and this that has to do with this project. So it can get changed here as well. Same thing with service tax. This gets set at the project level for everything to do with this project. So all quotes. So if you're sending multiple quotes, it's going to apply across the board. Vendor taxes are a little bit different. Um, Vendor taxes are specifically most commonly are going to be your sales tax on materials. And so the price that's coming from your supplier and that same price that ABC, for example, is sinking into your ProLine account is that price is not going to include sales tax. But ProLine does calculate the sales tax automatically and add that to your pricing. So that way you're not having to do that math in your head when you're filling out your price list. You don't have to worry about that. It's all handled automatically. And then the amount that is being applied for vendor tax, that is going to be based on the location of the project, and you can, depending on if you are using the multi-location functionality in ProLine, then you can actually have different sets of taxes for different locations. And this is not something we charge for. This location functionality is this you can have as many of these as you want in your ProLine account for no additional cost. So if you want to have, you may work in one city, but you could potentially have three different locations as kind of service areas within that city. You're going to want to have, most commonly, you're going to want to have different Google My Businesses for each location, but that's not even required. You could technically have the same Google My Business on each one of these and just really use it to manage taxes. So, and kind of have it set up. Now, it's not going to get it perfect every time. You might have like a project on the line that goes to one location and then you got to go in and change the taxes. But that, that can be adjusted after the fact. But both vendor tax and service tax, both, you assign that to a location, and then when you're creating a quote for a project that is in that location, then Proline automatically assigns it. So most of that stuff regarding taxes is going to happen automatically when you're going to generate a quote. um, Budget previews, multiple structures, service tax, commission. I think we pretty much have covered everything for quotes now.
Multiple signers.
Multiple signers. Yep.
That's not
So
even on the
it's not even
on the
on the
list,
list.
unfortunately.
So we now support multiple signatures in Proline quotes. So you can come down to quote settings. Uh, you're gonna start by default just having the one primary signer, but you can add additional signers, which can also be users. So you can have a user be a counter signer on a quote.
You can
This can
set that
also,
as a default in a template as well, just to mention. So if
yep,
you wanted to have the project assignee default to it, or you could have a specific user. So the use case there would be if you always need whoever's managing that project to sign off on it, then do a project assignee. But if there's someone in the business, for example, the business owner or a compliance manager who always needs to sign off on, countersign on these, then you can add this in. Once the primary signatory has signed off, then that additional signer will get a notification that they need to sign off on this. Once that's done, it will be fully signed. Also, just while we're here, we've also got quote expiry, and then we can jump
yep,
back to
yep.
in send
Um,
quote actions.
I think financing was already in there last year. But we have, where is
I think
expiring?
so. Send quote actions. One
Send
more.
quote actions. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So quote expiration. So yeah, you can now set how many days you want a quote to be valid when you send it, and if it's outside of that period after you sent it, so 30 days after you send it, when someone goes to view the quote, it's just going to say quote is expired. Please request a new quote, something like that.
yeah.
And that then gives you the ability to, and you can line that up with your sales follow up as well. So you can say in your sales follow up, hey, your quote's about to expire. You can line up that campaign, and then that allows you to then, without someone randomly going back and signing an expired quote, they got to reach out to you, and then
Update the
you can update the
prices.
pricing. So you would go into the quote, and update the pricing on that quote to what's coming from your price list, and then you
Potentially
can
what's being
send that.
refreshed from ABC Supply. So everything's kind of a nice smooth loop there. Just to jump back to multiple signers. Each person gets their own request, and so we actually track who has viewed each signing request as well. So on this one, I don't think we've got any sent ones there, but what you would see is when you've sent this one and you click on the status, you'll actually be able to see a list of the quote signers and how many times they've viewed the quote, and also which people have signed off on it, which people haven't signed off on it. So it just gives you a bit more information there, managing them. Yeah,
If
yeah.
that's if they
Yeah, if
click
you click
here,
send.
right? Yeah.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So this will say once it's viewed, it'll have a number here.
yeah. Once it's viewed, it'll show you what date it was viewed on, and it'll also have a count of how many times they've viewed it. So
Cool.
you can see when they were last there. Also, if you've got notifications turned on for this, we've already had a thing where you get a notification when someone opens their quote. We've just added on to that now that when you get that notification, it also tells you who opens a quote. So which of those users who's going to be signing up on it.
Yeah. Cool. All right, we better move on because we've already been
Yeah.
going here for
Yeah.
a minute. We got to move a little faster. So, quotes that covers quotes. Well, quote covers really. Oh, we also have new cover pages. Let me cover that really
Yeah.
quick. That's definitely a big request. So we also, if you go to
John's
your
on the
quote
call.
template,
So
go to your cover pages. Um, Tons of great cover page designs now. You have full control here over the color scheme. So like I can make this, I can change this up. That looks better with that logo. And then you also have control over text colors and all of that. So that's real smooth. Do that. Okay. So you have a lot of control now over these templates and how they're set up, and the colors for these, and so lots more options there on how cover pages look. Um, Jackass, is this being recorded? Yes. We're recording this, and it'll go up online pretty early. Um, we'll try to get it online as soon as possible. All right. Live multiple quote signatures. Okay, yeah. So this is now covered. So let's look at calendar updates. So we've done a number of changes to calendar, and there's still some work to be done. There's been some bugs the last few weeks, which really sorry about that, guys. We're working as quickly as possible to work out the kinks. Um, One of the issues that we had with calendars was that they just were very, very slow once you started getting a lot of events on here. And so the way we had it before actually wasn't gonna work. So we ended up doing kind of a big overhaul of calendars just in the last couple months. And so really amped up the ability for the calendars to scale with a high volume of events on them. We've worked a lot on supporting a lot the calendar connections. So we have a lot of functionality here in calendar connections now, and being able to map your calendars in ProLine back to the right external calendar, and having events sync both ways, both internally and externally. Um, so we have two-way syncing between Google Calendar and Outlook Calendar and ProLine. On this calendar view here, we now have up to 4 different views. And so you have a weekly view where you can see all of your events. I'm going to see if, yeah, so you can see all of your events here on a weekly basis. You also have a daily view where you can see just for today, you can see how all your events break down. And then we also have what we call the dispatch view, which is looking on a assignee by assignee basis what their schedules look like for the day. So this is another version of daily view, but looking specifically across availability for each team member. Um, we Let me see what else on here. UI. We did sort of level up the UI on this. Still working out some of the kinks on that. Upgraded the schedule event UI here. Um, I think we're actually going to be launching another
bulk
round of
import as
improvements on
well.
that. So bulk import of events. This isn't really relevant for active users, but for new ProLine users coming in, if once you connect, well, it could be for active users too. Anytime you're connecting a ProLine calendar to an external calendar for the first time, either because you've just come onto ProLine for the first time, or because you needed to change what calendar was connected, there is now an option I don't know if I'm
Even
gonna
if it's
be able to
not
show
the
it.
first time, even if it's not the first time, you can just click the import button and it'll
Yeah.
allow you to import all of the events from your external calendar into your ProLine calendar.
Yeah.
Um,
If it's not
Could be a
synced.
range of reasons for that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess because we have sync external events to ProLine calendar. So maybe that was turned off and but maybe now you want to turn it on and you want those events to get synced over. It says import right here. I'd have to connect my Google Calendar and stuff to get it to show. Um, but maybe if I just here we go. Yeah, so it'll show right there. When a
yeah. If you just
calendar
click
is
that,
connected.
I'll show you the yeah,
Yep. And
nice
so
little UI.
that will import in and import any missing events over. We support multi and all day events now. Um, that was one of the hardest things. I think a lot of the bugs that we've been facing the last couple of weeks on calendar are basically tracked back to adding that functionality of the multi-day events. It seems like that would be a simple thing. I would just make an event that's normally for like a couple hours into like a 2 day event. It actually is extraordinarily complex to try to juggle both types of events. So that's been where a lot of that came from was trying to add the functionality and to support multi-day or just the concept of an all-day event that doesn't have a start and end time. It's just all day. And then, of course, multi-day is just that extended over multiple days. That concept and having that work alongside normal events that are a set time to a set time, very difficult to get that to work. We're very close. We still just have a few things to still um, a few things that are still popping up that we're working through. All right. Let's get back into. So there's a lot more things that we allow to be edited now on events than we did before. So when you go to edit an event, you can actually edit the name of the event. And so there's a default that's associated with the event type, but you can override that and you can put whatever you want into that event name field. You can add internal notes. So this field right here is an internal notes field. This is not shown to anyone external. We're playing around with the idea of having like an external description here as well, or something having more control over what gets shown to customers externally, like on the Google event. But this allows you to put in some notes for whoever's going to run this event. Maybe like, hey, make sure you shut the gate so the dogs don't get out or something like that can go in that notes area. You can also control now. So this is an all day event, but so I'm just going to go to new event, inspection, 60 minutes. You now have control over duration. So rather than being stuck to whatever the event type is listed as, in this case 60 minutes, you can say actually this inspection is way out of our normal service area. It's going to take us an extra hour to get out there. And so this is actually an 120-minute event and then schedule it for that instead. So there's more control over duration. Um, and I think that about covers it. The main thing is just that we're continuing to do that's actually like our number one focus this week is on working through any remaining bugs in the calendar system and making sure this is working as expected. Um, and so that's number one priority for us right now.
One additional note on events is that now on the shareable customer dashboard, you can see the events. So if you share that link to your customers, they can see any event just scheduled, which is a nice feature. There are a lot more features like that coming soon. The quotes one will either be tonight or tomorrow.
So that just kind of leads into the customer portal or the project portal. So this has already kind of existed for a minute for files, but we've been kind of slowly building it out. So we moved it. It used to be at the top of files because it was only 4 files before. But if you go to your details tab on an existing project and scroll down to this project portal URL, you can copy this and open it. And so this is going to show this is for sharing with your customer. And so this is a link and it's also available in automation. So you can automate sending this to your customer as well. And the customer can see their upcoming events, any previous events, and they can also see their files here as well. So they can see, well, this is public files. This is not all files in their in ProLine, but this is anything you've set to be public inside of your ProLine files area. Um, and so that allows you to kind of share information back to the customer. We're going to be building this out gradually over time. A lot of different things that we're juggling at the moment, but we will be building this out pretty soon. I think potentially by end of year, we're going to have quotes and invoices that are going to be available on this project portal. And then long term, there's probably going to be like a referral form so people can submit referrals through this. There might even be like a live chat functionality through this. So there's a lot of things that will come later, but that kind of advanced functionality on this is not necessarily our highest priority right now. There's just so many other things that we're looking at, but we do want to build this out more and more over time. Um, and then real quick, I'll just show this. So what you can do is um, we'll say like one approved. So when it's been signed, when a quote's been signed, if you want to, you could add a message. We'll just say send a text, and you can add in here project share URL. And this is going to dynamically pass the link to their project that's associated with whenever this campaign runs. So you can automate sending this to your customer and say, hey, we're looking forward to working with you. Here's a link where you can see updates about your project. That's one of the other things here that we're going to be adding is like a status page. So there will also be sort of like general updates where there'll be kind of like a customer facing version of the stage as well. And so you can your customer can see sort of where things are at more easily. All right. Let's clean this up. So panel, we definitely built out the budget panel quite a bit. That was sort of built alongside the current version of quotes. So this demo is a bit of a mess just because quotes keep getting signed on here. But the project budget tab is going to it breaks down all your revenue, all of your costs. These costs get automatically generated from the quote. And so when a quote gets signed, this is automatically, I think it's signed, right? Yeah, when a quote gets signed, it's going to automatically extract what was calculated as the cost for the quote when ProLine calculated out that price. And that's different from the price because ProLine is tracking those separately. So it's taking the cost and it's automatically summing it up by the type, which the type is also controlled on your price list. So if we go down
And are
here,
also fully dynamic now. I forgot about that, but they used to be, remember, we
oh,
used to
that's
have
right.
just material and labor. So now
Yep.
actually all of the different, oh yeah. And
Which
did we add something
is
else on that?
where
On
did we
quotes
where were the controls
price?
on that? I can't remember what tab we put that on.
I think
Oh
it's
no,
quotes.
it's on here. Yeah, cost categories.
Yeah, cost categories. Yeah.
Yep. So you can have as many cost categories as you want, and then that becomes a way of organizing your price
Can you
list.
can you edit the cost category as well? So can you go down to cost category, click edit on that? Is that just the name? Yeah, okay, that's just the name. But on
And the
the
color.
priceless items, we forgot as well that you can actually, just one thing to mention is on the priceless item itself, you can also make it have no margin. So you can make it a pass-through item. For example, a building
Oh, that's
permit,
right. Yep.
that will be like a known price. So you don't want to put margin on top of that, but you want to have it inside your quote. So even if your quote has a 30% margin, you'll just pass that item through. So everyone's happy.
Yeah,
additional,
let me see. Permits,
too many upgrades.
so much. We do have it in our default like pre-built out templates for new accounts is like permits, I think, and it's automatically set to be a pass through. So you can just say
Yeah.
I don't want margin applied to this, and then cost and price becomes the same thing.
Yeah.
So all right. So back to budgets. So on the budget side, it automatically calculates this. So this is taking every item on the quote that was listed under the material type and it's totaling that up and putting a price here.
Every item that the user selected and signed for.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Every, yeah.
it's just based on the option that they chose, and it'll total it up in there. So theoretically, if your quotes are accurate and your pricing is accurate, then the material cost should be pretty much exactly what's put in there. Obviously, sometimes that's not going to be the case, so you can just edit that afterwards to see what your actual costs were. And if you see on the cost line there, there is currently a little pill-shaped box which just says 0.0%. This will actually show you the difference between your projected and your actual costs as well. So let's say, those materials actually cost you $7,000. This is going to show you like, oh, you went 20% over. That's just a little way for you to be able to look at your project and see where things kind of went wrong. You get a breakdown on that as well of if you can just click on that cost breakdown for me, AJ, just the thing next to it. Yeah. So here you can actually see line by line, where are we going wrong? Is it the labor side of things, the material side of things? You can really hone in on your profitability. And then you can go back, obviously, to your price line items and say, well, it looks like we're trending like 10% down for labor. So we need to change our calculations on here to make sure we're actually profitable on these. So you get a fair bit of granularity with that, which is great. On the cost line items there as well, next to the add cost item, you can see a button there that's to download these. So you can export all of your cost data into a CSV. And the little receipt icon next to the edit icon for the cost line items lets you also upload an image. So you can upload a receipt for that. You can say when it was paid, any of that kind of data there as well, just to help you track all of your costs more in depth. Just one other thing to note is that on the revenue, if you go scroll to revenue there, this will show you any chargebacks or any kind of banking costs as well that come into play.
Yep. So your gross revenue and your net revenue are not necessarily going to be the same thing. They will be if you're just getting like this is an external card payment that's been added manually, so you can add in like a check or cash or something manually, and then that will go in and that will be the same net to gross. But the but if you are um, billing through ProLine, then like merchant fees are going to get tracked. Any refunds or chargebacks, all that gets automatically tracked and taken care of here. So, um,
So just one thing from Matt, it would be cool to have labor and material projected costs in the project quote analysis. Oh, on the budget preview, on the budget planner. Yeah, we could definitely have that. It's not,
do we not already show that?
no, we
I mean,
don't show the breakdown, I
we have
think. So if you
job
click
cost
on one of
estimate.
them, no, but it's not the breakdown is what he's talking about.
Oh,
He means
breakdown.
have
Yeah.
a summary there.
Yeah. With all the different types. I think it's doable. Um,
I don't hate it. Add it to ideas and let's get
yeah.
it high up there, and then I can definitely take it as a. It will the way we always work with that is like next cab off the rank, right? Like if there's a bug itself, we're gonna go straight to fixing that. But in terms of features, like I like the sound of that feature. It sounds good, but we need
Yeah.
to kind of uh get it to the top of the rank.
Yeah, just a FYI, for everyone that watches this call and listens, we it's really important to ProLine that we want to keep listening to our users and implementing, but we are at a stage now where there's so many users that we get a ton of ideas and we want to listen and remember and track all of those ideas, but and like we can say right now this is a great idea, but the reality is in probably like an hour, we're going to be on to some other thing that we're handling. So the best way, even if you're on this call today, to actually get something on our radar and make it stick is going to be to go to the ideas and roadmap page, which is inside of your ProLine account, and add it as an idea. That I personally review every single idea that is in here, and if you go here, submit idea, fill out a sentence here that summarizes it, and then try to give me as much information as you can on what else, like really flesh out like why and what you're envisioning and submit these ideas in. I review every single one of them. There might be a few that I haven't reviewed from like the last day or so, but I review them and then I bring them to Oliver and then we work them into the roadmap. So this is the way to get stuff into our roadmap to actually get done. And it we're not able to do everything, but that's part of the reason we have this system and that we do the votes is because then once something gets more votes, then we tend to prioritize it a little bit higher. We do just because something has a ton of votes, like right now, this is very high. Like we're trying to figure out how to implement this. It's just a little bit complex, which is why we haven't done it yet. We want to make sure it meets as many people's needs as possible. So we are like balancing out complexity with demand, but generally speaking, the more votes something gets, the higher it gets prioritized. I need some water. There's a lot of
Better not
talk.
get sick. It's Christmas time, sir.
I'm actually recovering, I think, from being a little sick, so I just had that itch in my throat. All right. Adam said, "What would you suggest for recording true cost versus projected?" So this is exactly what this feature is for, Adam. I think one thing that
So
has
we automatically track your projected costs. So we, as soon as a quote is signed, what we're doing is saving the options and upgrades, options and add-ons that user chose, and we're saving the projected costs based on your quote. That is then stored in there. And what we're showing you here in that amount section is the placeholder, but you just type into that section whatever your actual costs were. So if ABC Supply charges you 7 grand, you put in 7 grand there. You can upload a receipt if you want to as well, just for record keeping. And then we're going to show you the difference between that automatically for you. So there's nothing else you need aside from that, if that kind of makes sense. But Adam, if you have any other questions on that, feel free to add them in chat.
Yeah, I think that's a point of confusion that some people have had here is um they're like, well, where is my projected numbers? And the thing is we're just tracking those in the background. Those are all being tracked, but we're not just like coming out where we say it is here on this cost
I
breakdown. So
think
if
in
you
the original
click,
version I was actually showing both the projected and the actual, but the UI there was dreadful because you had like it was all cramped. So now we just have one number that we're showing you there, but we still keep track of that projection for you.
we are going to be expanding this UI on projects substantially. That's something that has a lot of demand. So this is going to get expanded out to probably about half the page where there's just a ton more room here to work with. When that happens, then we'll be able to have a column here for planned, and then it will make a lot more sense, I think. So yeah, a lot of this information, there's so much information going on in this project's area. And the only reason that it's built this way to begin with is because ProLine is so focused on on the mobile aspect and having a good mobile app. So ProLine was a mobile app before it was a desktop app. So a lot of the UI here on the desktop is still inspired by or limited by what was originally designed for mobile. And so that will also get addressed here in time. Um, all right, let's move on here. I'm gonna try to just move fast through the rest of the stuff because we're coming up on an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Orders. So we did an overhaul on orders so that now orders, we'll do material order. Um, Orders actually have a document. They have a live document similar to quotes, and then we also generate a PDF. We also support signatures on orders as well. So you can get signatures from like a sub or even your material rep if you want them to have to sign. You can force that as well. So under order terms, you can actually add some additional legal text here at the bottom. It's not as customizable as quotes, but it doesn't really need to be. And you can select to require signing from the vendor, which is here, or vendor and the requester, so you can have a countersigner on the company side as well. Adam asked, will eventually the orders go straight to ABC? Yes, we're right now we're focused on expanding the existing price integration to also be for SRS and Beacon. That's kind of priority number one is duplicating what we have already for those other providers. Then we'll go back and add ordering for all three. And so you'll be able to place direct orders for all of them. One thing to note here, and this is the same on the quotes as well, you can actually select users or contacts. So this actually makes it possible to, if you want to add your sub as a limited user in ProLine and then just let them view like their projects, you can do that and you can select them here as a user versus a contact. I'm dying. All right.
There's one other thing on there, which is just that for the material orders, you can either have them set it out like it is in the quote, or you can have it merge all in. So you can have separate structures, or they can merge all into one singular option.
Yep. Tons of
So yeah,
control
that's orders.
on how orders are calculated. I think it was quite limited before, but these quote conversion settings have a lot of control. Is that what you're referring to? You said something about structures.
That's part of it, but there's also order details. Yeah, merge quote pages is the one on there.
Gotcha.
Merge
Oh
quote
yeah, for
pages into
different.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
like
you kind
if
of control
you're
how that all works.
yeah, that's going to be important for like the detached garage because you don't want to send like
Yeah,
a separate like you just want to send a single list of materials for that job site versus if you're sending something for a bunch of different um like if you're sending a quote that has a bunch of different structures and each structure is a completely different home like for a homeowners association or something, then you probably would want those to be separate on the order.
yeah,
So all
cool.
right.
Shareable file folders we've already done, and printed
Well,
portal. They're kind of the same thing, I guess.
it's similar. You can
No,
also, so if you go to files, any of these folders you can just share. So you can set something to public and then you get a share URL and you can just pay you can just send that off to somebody. So it's a similar functionality to what's on the portal. But you can just share individual folders as well right out of ProLine.
yep,
We already did project portal. Business reporting.
reporting.
So this is on my, I don't want to get too sidelined with this because I'm going to do a whole video on this in the next week or so to send out to everybody. But we did a major overhaul on reporting. And just just FYI, all of ProLine's reporting is driven by the statuses, and statuses are what you select here on your stages. So each stage in ProLine has a status associated with it. These are set for all ProLine accounts. So this is how we're able to extract meaningful data from your account, even when you're customizing these stages and customizing other aspects of ProLine. And so this drives each one of these different reports. Each one of these different reports looks at your numbers from a different perspective. So from like the marketing report is looking at all the leads that came in during a certain period. How did we do with those leads? How were we able to get those to appointments? Were we able to do on those appointments? How much revenue did we generate per lead? So this is designed for the marketing um, the designed for the marketing team or whoever's working on marketing your business versus the sales report is aimed at the sales team. And this is looking at opportunities that came in, opportunities being most often quotes that were sent, and all the opportunities that came in during a certain period. How did we do on those? What was our close rate? What was our project mix? What was our average revenue, average cost, or gross profit? So this is looking at it from the sales point of view. So that's just important. Same thing for production, though we haven't built this out too much yet. And then cash flow is really looking at the actual payment numbers of money flowing in and out of your business. So other stuff here, we got the map, which is cool. You can see all your past projects, activity tracking across your whole organization. The overview page kind of gives you some high level reporting for the whole. It's kind of like picky or
Also, any of
picking
the
the best
projects in
stuff.
here, any of the projects in here you can click on. I don't know if you did
Oh
that
yeah,
already, but yeah.
yeah. So
Well,
if
from
you
activity or from here or just anywhere throughout here, you can just click on the project itself.
So, for example, you can come down here to total open projects, which is your which are projects still open. So these haven't been closed, and you can click on any of these, and you can start a call. You can also export from this directly, and so you can export CSVs. You can also you can automate in bulk across these lists as well if you want to move them around in bulk inside of ProLine. So lots of control here. And I'll do a more in-depth video on reporting here though.
Adam, for the file share link, not specifically the file share link, but if you share that dashboard, that's going to have all the files in there as well. So the dashboard we were looking at just before with the event, that also has a file tab, and that's going to share any public files for that project. So you can share that in your automations and in your quote, for example.
Yeah.
Yes, we are going to be adding that's an airframe code to provide a map to the website. Oh yeah,
Oh,
okay.
maybe
That's
someday.
not currently on the it's not currently on the roadmap at the moment, but that would be a great one to add to your ideas, please. I do like the idea of that. Be cool.
Yeah, just add
Thank
the
you, sir.
ideas. Um, I think we're exploring quite a few features in regards to maps. We're looking at potentially adding canvassing features in ProLine.
I
Um,
think maps are one of my favorite features. They're one of my pet project features. I
Oliver
definitely want to
wants to
explore
work
more
on
with.
maps, so
I want to work on map. Add more stuff on map.
uh, yeah, there's definitely a lot that can be done here. This is not embeddable with the iframe currently, but definitely got.
No, but I really like the idea of people showing their completed jobs to prospects. I really like that as a tool,
Yep, absolutely.
potentially with the ability to add photos of them.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Like
Be
if it
really
was the
cool.
embedded version when you click here, it just showed you photos. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Moving right along. We got custom roles and permissions. This is a big
Oh, that was a
one.
big change.
This is an
Forgot about
absolutely
that.
huge one. Yeah.
It
So
used to be that you could the things would only be restricted to whether someone was an admin or not. And now we've got this massive panel of permissions, which has to get updated with every single thing we bring out, pretty much. So it can get a little bit uh, complex and painful, but it's awesome.
yeah, tons of control over what each individual member of your team can and can't access, and then you can reuse each profile across as many team members as you want. So for your company, maybe you don't want your salespeople to be able to override the margin or margin mid max, or not even edit margin, for example, or change deposit, all of these different things regarding quotes, you can at a very granular level control what this everyone with this permission profile can and can't access. And then on your team members, you can go in and you can add the different you can add in that. So
They have
they
to be
can be an
restricted
admin.
first.
Yeah, they have to be restricted. So we now have either admin or restricted, and restricted has a permissions profile. Admins have access to everything, so that's sort of like an overarching thing. They don't even get a profile, but if it's restricted, then they do. All right, tons of power there with that. Could spend all day on that for sure. Oh, we already have this. We already went over that. Image
Yep.
annotations.
Yep.
That's definitely a cool one. So if we go into files and we go to a photo, we can now hit edit and we now have the ability to edit this image right inside ProLine, including adding, we can draw on it. We can add text to it. Um, oh wait, I'm clicking. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Uh, damage. And then, yeah, we can move that around. So we'll move that. We'll move that. We'll put that there. We'll delete this.
We can revert it if
How do I delete
we
this?
want to.
I think
Uh,
is it on
you
draw? I think
need
it's
to
on
be
draw.
on draw, and then I think you can just press delete, or you can go use the back. You can use the back arrows, or just revert to the original.
Yeah, you can always just revert to the original. So you have the ability to add shapes and all kinds of stuff here. So you can annotate on top. We do track the original always, but we can now put this. We'll hit save. That now becomes the image. You can see it's updated here, and then that can then get used in quotes and inspection reports and stuff like that. So, yep, definitely cool on that. And then image annotations, stage information, and videos. Yep. So this was kind of a pet project of mine that I added. So you can go in as an admin, you can add descriptions and videos on every stage in your ProLine account. So the way that I had envisioned and the way that the company that requested this is using it is you can make essentially documentation for your team and say for every part of your process, you can document how you want your company to run. You can put a video of that as well as a description, which can be quite long, into this area. And then when you are onboarding a new team member, you can tell them, hey, if you ever don't know what to do when a project is at a certain point in ProLine, just click on that eye icon and you'll get a video from me telling you what to do. And so we're probably going to kind of add this by default in the new ProLine accounts at some point. It's been on my list for a while, but this is available to all of you to document your process for your team and then have that directly in ProLine for them to access. So, all right. Spin text. We're getting into kind of the we're almost done here. Spintex was a an ad that we did. So this is mostly going to be applicable to like speed to lead campaigns. If you are ever running into issues, if you ever get enough leads coming in that you run into issues where you're getting some penalties, potential penalties from Google's like Google, where you have suspension of an email account or something like that because you're sending so many automated emails out of ProLine. One thing that can help with that, and this is really uncommon, it's going to only happen if you have one person that is handling like if you have your speed lead campaign set up to send all from one person and then you have hundreds or even or thousands of leads, usually thousands of leads coming in, then the amount of emails that are getting sent out of ProLine on a daily basis may trigger something in ProLine or in Google to say, hey, like this account may be compromised. If that happens, if you're struggling with that, then you can go into your campaigns and you can rewrite some of your automations, especially the leading automations. So you can look like the first email, and you can um, use. Do we have this like in variables or something? Do we have it documented somewhere? Is it in
Yeah, I think it's in
variables?
variables.
Oh yeah, randomized text,
But
spin text. So
yeah,
if you set it up like this, so we'll just copy this. So now when ProLine runs this template, it's going to pick randomly from these three. Now it gets a little weird with the spacing. You probably want to avoid having spacing between the words in here because that spacing can cause some weirdness, but uh, you can do that. And then now every time this runs, ProLine's going to pick a random one of these three randomly. and it's going to get rid of these brackets on the outside and these brackets on the inside, and you're just going to be left with one of these three words. And so you can randomize your messages and make them look even less automated to systems like Google. This isn't really important for your users because they're probably not going to get this more than once, or your customers. They're probably only going to get each individual automation one time from you, but it can be important to sort of increase the number of messages you can safely send. This is really not a concern for small companies, but for large companies that might be getting, as I said, thousands of leads in um, through a speed delete campaign specifically, where they're automating emails and it's all coming from one person, then this can help with that.
It also just makes it feel more organic for like if there was one contact who had multiple projects, maybe did multiple projects with someone, or maybe there was a third party intermediary who was like getting projects through you, it just means that their messages aren't going to be the same all the time. One other thing, just a note on that, is that it's not just limited to one word. You can put whole paragraphs in there. So you could have like three or four different emails, and the three or four different emails there could just like effectively say the same stuff, but they could be crafted differently, so they look quite different. And within each of those, they can still contain variables. So you can still put in like
Yep.
user first name, user last name, all that kind of stuff can live within the spin text options. So it's
Yeah, that's a
very
good point.
robust.
It's a good point. So you can have within these, that's probably gonna, you do have to kind of like type them outside.
Yeah,
There's some kind of some weirdness there, but you can
you can
have
put them in.
variables
Yeah,
inside like that. So you can say, hi.
yeah. Oh, one other thing on robustness, well, I don't know if we covered it, but just an important thing to point out on our quote additional signers, that's unlimited. So it's not just one additional signer. You could theoretically have as many as you wanted. Like if there were 50 different people you needed to sign off on a quote, you can have 50 different people sign off on it.
Yep. I think that goes into a lot of the things that we're doing now. Is we're trying to build things in a way that are going to be flexible for the maximum number of use cases. We're not just assuming that everybody, couldn't possibly have more than one person they want to sign a quote. Even if we can't think of a use case to have three or four people signing, we want to support that. And so, with a lot of the features, we're kind of building them that way. All right. Anti-spam call feature. So this was a quick ad that we made a while back for anyone that was struggling with a lot of spam calls coming through. So you can hit this require callers to press one spam filter. And so if you have that selected, when anyone calls your numbers, it's going to say, thank you for calling. And I can't remember. I don't think that's
I think it does. I think
controllable.
it says thank you for calling and then company name. I think is
Yeah,
what it
thank
is.
you for yeah, it does. Yeah, it would say the company name. So it would, thank you for calling Power Roofing. Um, please press one to be connected. And so if the user presses one, then it will ring through. If they don't press one, the call won't ring through at all. So it completely blocks the call. And I believe it waits for 30 seconds before it drops the call, waits for an input for 30 seconds. This absolutely is going to decrease the number of people because there's going to be legitimate callers that get confused by that because it's not a normal experience. So this is, you definitely want to be careful with this. Um, but if you have a ton of spam calls coming through and it's becoming a nuisance, and by the way, we already do our best to block spam callers. We have some things in place that are monitoring, but it errs on the safe side. So unless a number is absolutely a known spam number, we're gonna let it through. And the spam people are so good. They're constantly buying new numbers and rotating numbers, so it's very hard to keep up with them. So if you're struggling with that and you're getting a lot of spam callers, you can turn this on. Just know that it may confuse your other people that are calling you as well. So it's just sort of a trade-off. Um, we went over calculation previews. Booking pages. This is actually a huge feature. So if we go to, we still have this on the integrations page. It probably needs its own page in ProLine at some point. But if you go to web forms, this really is not an integration. This is more of a feature at this point. So you can create as many. We've had web forms for a minute. You can create unlimited website forms inside of ProLine that can be embedded on that you can share them directly. So you can just click to share a link. You can also embed them onto your website. And so you also have some different versions of the share links where you can have it be for a specific project or even a specific project and a specific user. So you have some, and you would use these in automated messages. So lots of cool things that you can do with this. What we expanded this to was allowing bookings to come through. So event bookings can now come through these forms. So instead of having just a form to fill out, the users are going to first select a date and time, and then they select the form. And when this goes through, it automatic not only does it create a new lead in the form of a project, but it's also scheduling an appointment for you. So this and it has the date here at the top for that appointment. So the vision of this was to replace the way that a lot of contractors are using Calendly currently, where they're really not using everything that is in Calendly. Calendly is a very like robust tool that has tons of different booking page functionalities in it that and it's really built more for like tech companies like ProLine. We use Calendly. But what we noticed is a lot of contractors were just using one single form in their Calendly that was very straightforward and all they just really needed was something to collect appointments. And so we've replicated that here. So you can embed this, you can share a direct link to it and with your customers, and they can book directly onto your calendar through ProLine. And they go to this nice landing page, and they're selecting a date and time to book their appointment with you or their inspection with you. We also have so there's sort of a default if you can actually share this on social media and it'll just sort of have some default images and stuff. But if you want to customize how that link looks on social media, you can actually customize that as well. So that way you can have this directly on
Defaults
Facebook.
like the logo, company name, that kind of stuff. But yeah, you could jazz it up with your own preview images and stuff.
Yep. And you can have as many of these as you want as well. And each one can go into can have a different lead source, different campaign. All of this stuff is customizable, and you can generate as many of these as you want. So if you're like sending out a mailer campaign, you can have a link in the mailer campaign to book an appointment, and then
Have a QR
everyone,
code.
yeah, you can put it on a QR code. Eventually, we
Be
probably
nice.
will have generated QR codes, but um, that's for down the road. There's
That's
tons of
easy. Yeah.
services that you can go
Yeah.
generate a QR code on. So um, put that on your mailers, and then people can scan it off a mailer, and you're tracking it in ProLine as that lead source, as like a mailer's lead source or whatever. So, all right, that was a marathon. And honestly, we probably missed so much. There's been so many little improvements and changes. And so yeah, there's probably other stuff too. But I
It's a
think
good amount for today.
that's the biggest stuff. Yeah, I think that's
We
most of it.
open up to any questions, I guess.
Yeah, let's stick around for the next we'll do another 10 minutes if anyone has any questions. No questions is also okay, but we'll give it a couple minutes. Absolutely, Matt.
That's good notes. Like it.
So, um, yep, we will get this recording out on. Yeah, we'll get this recording out on YouTube, David, so you can watch it again. Um,
Maybe get
ASAP.
one of the guys to clip it into make some clips. Like we can do the whole thing and then some clips. Maybe just
Yeah.
like some
Well,
specific feature clip would be good actually.
Yeah, actually, there's probably a lot of good clips in here.
That'd be nice.
Clips of
Yeah.
me dying, coughing too. Those would be great.
We
But
can remix that. Auto tune it. That'd be good.
yeah, the we will. Yeah, we'll probably make clips too, but we'll get the full length that thing out as soon as possible. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully that file is not too crazy. So, all right.
Yeah. Each yeah, if we cut the video up, I think that'd be good, David.
Um, yeah, ideally,
We
ideally,
do also have a
hopefully,
lot of feature overview videos. Like in documentation, a lot of these things will have their own, especially QuickBooks, for example, ABC. They all have their own videos in the documentation. So definitely any new employees, I mean, get them to go through Doco as part of onboarding. I think we should maybe add some more links to that throughout the platform as well. But yeah.
yeah. We had our documentation was amazing about 6 months ago, and now it's probably very outdated. We did do another pass. There's a lot of video filming I need to do. That's a January thing for me. Got a question here from Diana. Is there a way to send different text messages to what quotes they sign? Um, I so
Text messages.
there's like a number of different things you could mean there. I'll just address them all because the answer is yes. The answer, regardless of what you mean by that, the answer is yes. There's you can send out different text messages based on like what quotes are being signed. The first thing that you might be referring to is just the actual text message to send the quote.
Hmm.
So you can control that on each quote template by going to send quote actions, primary signer messages. We now have primary and secondary because we do have that additional signer capability. So this is going to be the main one. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so for like roof repair, roof replacement. Yeah, so different templates. So you can have a roof, you want to have a separate roof replacement template, and you can have a message here for sending that text and email. And then for roof repair, you'd have a different text and email that's associated with this quote template. So each quote has its own unique messages that get sent. Now, for sales follow up, which you might also be referring to, those also would be different. And the way that you would do that is the stage that you have those templates set up to move projects to, which would most likely be like a quote sent stage. You would set up your triggers on this stage with different conditions based on that project. So it's not based on the quote, it is based on the project. So you could select, is this a retail roof replacement? And then you can start this campaign. Or if it's is it an insurance project, you can start this campaign. If it's gutters, you start that campaign, and then so on and so forth. You could have a trigger in here that's only triggering based off if it's a roof repair, and then you can push it into a roof repair follow up if you wanted to have that. Um, and so you can get very granular on which sales follow up campaign you want to trigger based on the what the details of the project are. So, and those details are all saved on the project. So if we go to project details, that's all of this information right here. So category type, services, tags, and then you can funnel it into different places depending on what's selected here.
So very much yes.
Yes.
Um,
Easy
for
control.
Yeah, for John's question, yes. So if you put pretty sure with the web forms, they will be based on the closest location to the user, to the customer, sorry. So if you were to split your territories out into different locations, and if the user was assigned to that location, then when those new leads come through from the web form, it's going to look for that user. We do have some round robin, but that's only going to be valid if the time is available for both users. For example, you will always want to show your end customer the maximum availability. So from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or whatever, right? If a user comes on there, a customer comes on there and they see 8 a.m. and there are two of your team who have availability, are at that location and have availability for 8 a.m., it will then choose the one who's had the least appointments booked in the last 7 days kind of time frame. So we
Well, it's
so
pending. It's looking at the next 7 days, I think, right? It,
sorry, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
It's
the
looking,
least busy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not
It's not round
technically a round
robin
robin. We
availability based.
probably will have different modes in the future, and round robin might be one of those modes, but what it technically is like an equal distribution. And so the way it breaks down is you have your different locations. This is so as far as like going to different territories, it's going to be based off locations. So you would add different locations for different parts of your service area, and then you can and based on the address, whatever is the closest location to that homeowner when they're filling out. Because so that's one thing, it doesn't show that right off the bat if there's only one location, but if you do have multiple locations, then it will require the address first. So it changes the way the form works, and it requires the address first, and then the homeowner types their address in, and then it's only going to show them availability for sales reps that are close in their location. So that whatever location is closer to the homeowner. So it narrows in to just those sales reps in that area or sales rep, and then it's showing just availability for that area, for that location. And then yeah, if there's more at that point, if there's more than one sales rep, then ProLine's basically just looking at who's the least busy in the next 7 days, and that's who it's going to give it to. If it's a toss up between two, but um, also sometimes there's only one person available to begin with. Let me. There's not going to be any video out on that right now. It's one of the things that needs thorough documentation created. But the way it's pretty straightforward. So you're just going to add your different locations here, and you do need different addresses for this to work. And so you kind of do need to have different offices. You could just choose random addresses. Like there's nothing technically against that. Well, the problem with that is this is visible. This is going to show in places like on quotes and stuff. So you would need this to be like an official location.
I think John as well might be talking about the new areas thing you added,
Oh,
which is
so
separate
areas are
to this.
different.
That
Yeah.
yeah, just to point out the distinction between that, locations have a lot of functionalities in them. Areas are more just like a tagging system at the moment. So
Yeah, it's mostly tag.
they're a direction we're moving in terms of the areas themselves and those territories being more fully featured, but at the moment it's effectively just a tag.
Yeah. Um, we will definitely that is definitely the vision though with areas is to have it be sort of like a territory for a rep, where you can say, and the way that it'll work is you're going to assign an area on the managed team page most likely. So you'd go to the rep and you'd add however many areas that you want them to have access to. And it's definitely potentially could factor into booking pages. I hadn't thought about that, but definitely definitely something that could happen.
I think in the end state there, areas will be the kind of key thing that we use to base routing around. Like how are you routing any of the leads and stuff?
Yeah,
Be
yeah.
area based.
So definitely a lot of functionality potential there. But yeah, at the moment it's no different than like categories or um yeah, it's really no different than any of the other
Tag.
project organization things, categories, types. It doesn't have any other added functionality. I totally forgot about this. This is definitely a big add was the filters.
Oh, filters.
So you can now
Yeah.
um, filter based on all of these things in ProLine. So you can filter based on areas, you can filter based on locations, um, different types. All of that can be things that you can filter your projects page based on. And that is going to there's also going to be some sorting coming down the lines. There's a little bit more work we're doing here on the projects page to make it easier to manage large numbers of projects. So, because I mean, if you're a smaller team, that's not going to be super important to you because you're just going to be able to look at your projects. But if you're a team that has 300 projects inside of a stage, that gets really overwhelming super quick. And so being able to filter down and see only stuff for that matches one of these, like what your filters are, is really helpful. So, um, but yeah, hopefully that answers your question, John. And the question is, it doesn't. They're just very limited in functionality at the moment, but they will be more powerful in the future. And that's good feedback on having that factor into booking pages. All right. Yes, sir. John, answer my message on Facebook if you haven't already. I need to know clarification there. We're gonna be pulling a late. Well, I'll be pulling a late night. This is just Oliver's normal day, but we're gonna be working on that tonight on calendars. So let me know. All right. Cool. So we will wrap up there. Thanks everybody for joining. I know a lot of people have already left, and still, this is like one of our biggest office hours crowds ever, even with only 9. I think we got up to almost 30, which is wild. So appreciate you guys joining and sticking around. Um, Please do reach out to support on any of this stuff. They're happy to hop on a call and walk you through it. So if you need someone to kind of just be there, answer questions. You can just reach out to our support team. We have unlimited Zoom calls, so you can schedule whenever you need to. And this call should go up on YouTube within the next 24 hours. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.